Press conference for 2025. Today is Friday, 28th of February. I have the honor in my presence our Premier, Honourable Dr. Natalio Wheatley, and Deputy Premier, Honourable Julian Fraser, RA, Minister for Environment, Natural Resources and Climate Change. I am Carrier Christopher, your Acting Director of Communications for the Government of the Virgin Islands. Please allow me to say thanks to the media. Media, I say thank you for being here, being on time and being very patient. We appreciate you. And this presentation can be heard live via the government's website and, Facebook page, GIS. So thank you to GIS, ZBVI, always thankful to ZBVI, Flow TV, CCT Live, and of course, CBN Radio. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the following persons: the Acting Financial Secretary, Mr. Jeremy Vanterpool, Permanent Secretary for Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sustainable Development, Mr. Joseph Abbott, Service Delivery Manager, Mr. Kedrick Malone, Policy Analyst 2, Dr. Dawn Joseph, Deputy Secretary, Mrs. Sophia Berkeley, Executive Director of International Business Regulations, Ms. Ayana Glasgow, Director of International Affairs, Mrs. Dwinelle Davies, Director of Shipping Registry, Mr. John Samuel. A friendly reminder to the media to stand please and give us your name and media house in which you represent. Each media house is allowed 3 questions, not including your follow-up. I see that it's a full house today and we do have 2 featured presenters. So we will go forward into our presentation. I thought I missed someone, yes, and he's standing right in front of me. My apologies, Mr. Kedrick Malone. I thought I said so. Oh, and we also have, everybody's hiding from me today. I apologize. Miss Nadia Demin Hodge, Acting Chief Immigration Officer. So good morning again. Thank you all and welcome. I will not prolong anymore. We do have a full agenda today, and I want to welcome our Premier as he gives his remarks, Honourable Natalio Wheatley.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Deputy Premier, senior civil servants, members of the media. Pleasant good morning to you and to the people of the Virgin Islands. This press conference is in keeping with my government's commitment to democratic accountability in ensuring the public is aware of what is happening in government and any new developments of importance. Before proceeding, I want to extend my deepest condolences to those families who have lost loved ones. I pray that God will give you peace. I also want to congratulate our first female Premier of Anguilla, Honourable Cora Richardson. Today I'm very pleased to be joined by the Honourable Julian Fraser, Deputy Premier and Minister for Environment, Natural Resources and Climate Change. He's also the 3rd District Representative and Senior Member of the House of Assembly. In my statement this morning, I will very briefly touch on my recent trade mission to Asia and then take a bit of time to place in its proper context the recent strains in economic relations between the United States Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands. In terms of the trade mission to Asia, as you know, I recently led a delegation to the Greater China area and Malaysia. I was joined by the Honourable Lorna Smith, OBE, and Honourable Marlon Penn. To be perfectly clear, financial services has traditionally been a non-partisan issue. I was most grateful for their presence and genuinely appreciated working together to promote the Virgin Islands as a jurisdiction. Also pleased to have the other members of the delegation present. We were well facilitated by the Director of the BVI Hong Kong office, Dr. Ricardo Wheatley, and his deputy, Ms. Siobhan Flax, along with the rest of their team. There has already been a great deal of media coverage on the trade mission, so I'll not get into great detail about the trip, except to say that my delegation's engagements in China reinforced the Virgin Islands' good reputation and leading position in the Chinese market. In Malaysia, we received a very warm official welcome, as I was the first Premier of the Virgin Islands to make an official visit to that country. The opening of economic relations between Malaysia and the Virgin Islands positions our financial services industry to offer corporate structures to Malaysian clients that facilitate their business needs and also facilitates investment into ASEAN. The trade mission was aligned with my government's strategy of expanding and diversifying the markets our jurisdiction serves as an international finance center. I want to take this opportunity to remind the public that financial services accounts for roughly 60% of government revenue, nearly 2/3 of the budget. It largely funds the delivery of public services such as education, healthcare, security, and road maintenance, as well as payment of salaries and pensions every month. We cannot understate how important the financial services industry to our economic interests and financial independence. Protecting our financial services industry is a top priority for the territory. Without financial services revenue, we would no longer be able to meet our financial obligations, which we have done ever since we balanced the budget and got off British granting aid in 1978 under the leadership of the late former Chief Minister and First Minister of Finance, Dr. Wheatley, MBE, LLD. We have never defaulted on any financial obligations over the course of the past 45 years. Our sovereign debt rating by Standard & Poor's demonstrates investor confidence in our economy and our ability to manage our own fiscal affairs. I do not intend to see financial services fail on my watch. Too much is at stake. While the industry continues to be resilient in the face of political pressures, my government has been proactive in taking decisive action to ensure the Virgin Islands as a jurisdiction remains a successful and competitive international finance center in perpetuity based on adherence to international regulatory standards. In this regard, I oppose the continuous calls by some members of the UK Parliament for public registers of beneficial ownership to be imposed on the Virgin Islands via an order in council. It is under the leadership of the democratically elected arm of government that the territory has successfully grown and regulated the financial services industry over 4 decades. We are also committed and reliable partners of the United Kingdom in applying sanctions, combating financial crime, and immediately sharing beneficial ownership information to support investigations. Legitimate interest filters will make our regulatory regime even more robust. At the local level, we are more than capable of managing the growth and regulation of our financial services industry and should not be threatened for exercising our autonomy. I will now turn to the recent issues that have arisen between the British Virgin Islands and the US Virgin Islands, which has caused alarm on both sides of the channel. The modern BVI and USVI have been economically interdependent for many decades. Our tourism sectors are reliant upon our respective territories for sustained growth. The BVI side has historically relied upon the Cyril E. King International Airport as a gateway for tourists to transit to and from the BVI via air and ferry. In the marine sector, the USVI charter boat companies rely on the BVI for excursions, entertainment, and natural attractions. However, there have been challenges over the years in regard to balance and equity. It must be kept in mind that the BVI's Commercial Recreational Vessel Licensing Act that governs the operations of the charter industry was passed in 1992. The legislation has not been updated or fees revised in 33 years to keep pace with the appropriate increases needed to meet government's growing administrative costs. Nor have fees logically corresponded to the weekly charges for yacht charters that have dramatically risen based on strong demand for access to BVI waters for many years. For example, when companies receive bookings for yacht charter, the charge for a customer can average between $50,000 and $100,000 a week. This is being earned weekly over the course of up to 12 to 13 weeks, while these vessels on a daily basis are enjoying the use of our waters, beaches, and fishing grounds as a central feature of their packages. All we collect on the BVI side is an annual fee of a few $100s per vessel for the commercial vessel license to traverse our waters. The USVI charter industry, by their own admission, contributes just shy of $100 million to the USVI economy. So there's a huge economic imbalance between us in the marine sector. In recognition of this, the BVI government began taking steps to modernize our legislation to bring balance to the economic benefits gained from USVI charter vessels utilizing our waters and natural assets. We held extensive consultations between 2002 and 2004 with our local marine industry stakeholders. In total, 22 amendments were proposed across 3 pieces of legislation. In fact, government accepted a number of the industry's proposals, including the proposed new price of the commercial recreational vessel license, commercial recreational vessel licenses. In addition to local consultations, I traveled to St. Thomas, where I attended a meeting of the Inter-Virgin Islands Council, in which the proposed changes to our legislation were shared with Governor Albert Bryan and his delegation. Subsequent to that IVIC meeting, I again went to St. Thomas and held a bilateral meeting with Governor Bryan, where I shared updates and revisions to the initial proposals. An amendment bill was then drafted to reflect the proposed changes for consideration by the House of Assembly. The bill was given its first reading about 2 weeks ago, which made it a public document that the public can review and recommend any further changes before the bill goes through its subsequent stages before being passed. After the first reading, it was always our intention to arrange another IVIC meeting for further engagement with Governor Bryan and his administration, but scheduling provided challenges. However, before a meeting could be secured, my ministerial colleagues and I learned online of Governor Bryan's letter to the President of the USVI Senate that requested an emergency session to be called to consider his proposals for a 25% tariff on imported goods from the BVI and the levying of a transit fee on travelers passing through the US Virgin Islands to and from the BVI. The news took me by surprise because Governor Bryan has been a true friend of the BVI. During our darkest hour, he was there to support us against direct rule, for which we will always be grateful. However, on the issue of our territory's economic relations, I believe dialogue would have been the best course of action to raise any concerns, as opposed to any attempts to bully us. The US Virgin Islands is our closest neighbor, and figuratively and literally our family. My government genuinely believes in the shared prosperity of the Greater Virgin Islands. We want both sides to succeed. But as I outlined earlier, the economic imbalance that currently exists heavily favors the United States Virgin Islands. All I'm seeking is an appropriate balance so that the economic benefits of using BVI waters are fairly shared. We are not seeking to cripple the USVI marine industry. We are confident that they will be able to do well even with fee increases. I'd be more than happy to discuss the issue in greater detail with Governor Bryan, who I genuinely consider a friend. That is why I've invited him here to Tortola to discuss his concerns in person, so we can ensure all factors have been considered. There is also scope for us to consider how, in a balanced and complementary way, we can also optimize other economic opportunities of mutual benefit to our respective territories. For example, we are currently not maximizing the full economic potential of the Greater Virgin Islands market for events, tourism, and inter-Virgin Islands vacation packages. These hold the possibility of boosting our marine and economic activity in our marine sectors. As I close, I want to stress once again that the USVI and BVI are a family. The familial ties are as real as the economic and business linkages that exist. We have a mutual interest in both sides doing well economically, and we are committed to that. My colleagues and I are ready to engage in further discussions. Before I close, please remember our celebrations on Sunday and Monday in honor of our first Chief Minister, the late, great Lavity Stout. I hope to see all of you at the college on Sunday. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful H.L. Stout Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Premier. And now we will invite our Deputy Premier, the Honourable Julian Fraser, RA.
Thank you, Premier. For the benefit of those who don't know, I should say, Premier, that Willard Wheatley, of whom you spoke, that took us out of granting aid, was your grandfather. I don't know if you remember that. Premier, members of the press corps, senior public servants, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning. I'm very pleased to join Premier Wheatley for the very first time at one of his press conferences as a member of his government. Since my appointment as Deputy Premier and Minister for Environment, Natural Resources and Climate Change just 4 months ago, as you would expect, I have been hard at work at my portfolio. On a different occasion, I will be happy to participate in another press conference to update you on the work of my ministry, should the Premier extend another invitation. However, today it is my great pleasure to say a few words about my participation in the 48th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, that took place just last week in Barbados. I represented the Premier and his government at that critical meeting of Caribbean states and territories where the world is experiencing such uncertainty. It is important for me to state at the outset that regional cooperation is a pillar of our international affairs. The Premier has overall responsibility for those areas of international affairs over which the local government exercises its authority. However, each individual minister has a role to play within our respective portfolios, whether it be health, education, climate change, energy, or trade. Needless to say, on a great many issues, the Virgin Islands is best served by coordinating with other neighbors because certain problems are bigger than any country or territory can handle on its own. CARICOM's collective response to the COVID-19 pandemic, international advocacy on climate change, response to irregular migration from Haiti and Venezuela, tackling crime and gun violence, and the list goes on, are all examples where regional cooperation is in our interest. So it is extremely important that we remain engaged with our neighbors. The Virgin Islands Associate Membership in CARICOM provides us with access to high-level regional forums, such as the Heads of Government meeting, where we discuss our challenges at the highest political level and take coordinated action. CARICOM's 48th regular meeting of the Heads of Government was chaired by the dynamic, and I repeat that word, dynamic, Prime Minister of Barbados, the Honourable Mayor Amor Motley, and took place against the backdrop of unfolding trade wars, conflict in Europe, and instability in the Middle East. Our discussions covered, among other things, trade and economic cooperation, regional transportation, crime and regional security, climate resilience, energy, food security, education, tourism, and technology. Present to discuss the big geopolitical matters were United Nations Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, and President of the European Commission, Her Excellency Ursula von der Leyen. They have both pledged to support the region on climate change, sustainable development, and the stabilization of Haiti. They would welcome the region's support in upholding the rules-based international order with our strong moral voice. A key issue was disruption in international trade by potential tariffs, especially given the Caribbean's high import dependency. Caribbean heads took the decision to receive the block trade policies with the United States and other trade partners to assess the impact of global economic tension on the Caribbean. Regional security was also raised as critical, particularly the situation in Haiti. CARICOM remains committed to helping to restore security and stability. Here at home, we have felt the impact of the ongoing instability in Haiti, where those fleeing violence have arrived on our shores. We sympathize with the small Haitian community here on island and with their relatives back home who are experiencing human insecurity every day from the gangs which are relentlessly seeking full control over their lives. For the region as a whole, crime and security are major concerns. The proliferation of illicit firearms, organized crime, and gang activity continue to threaten public safety and economic stability. CARICOM acknowledged that stronger intelligence sharing and law enforcement collaboration is needed. It was agreed that some steps would be taken in this regard. We do participate in CARICOM Impacts that has some responsibility for coordination and regional security. Also, in attendance at the heads of government meeting was the outgoing Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Her Excellency Baroness Patricia Scotland, a dear friend of the Virgin Islands. She has visited us on various occasions. There were also representatives from Canada, Saudi Arabia, Africa, and Latin America. The high level of international participation in CARICOM meeting demonstrates the growing importance and the weight of the bloc in global affairs. Many other things were discussed, but I found our discussion on technology and innovation to be extremely important to the future of the Virgin Islands and the region. We met with a number of investors from Silicon Valley who see great economic potential in the Caribbean if we can quickly adopt new and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and apply them to areas such as healthcare and would give the region a competitive advantage. Based on the presentations that I've seen, the Virgin Islands has a real shot at becoming a center of excellence in healthcare if we embrace the technology or the technological revolution that is currently taking place. But we have to do so early enough so that we capture and share our share of the market. In terms of examples of Caribbean countries pushing forward with technology, I was highly impressed with Guyana's progress in establishing the Guyana Digital School, which is an initiative expanding digital learning across the Caribbean. It provides access to online education and technical training, equipping people with digital skills to engage in emerging industries. Shortly, I will be sharing what I gleaned from the discussion and presentation with the Premier, and Honourable Sherry De Castro, the Minister for Education, Youth Affairs and Sports. In terms of CARICOM's relationship with the Virgin Islands, I was very encouraged by CARICOM's support for the associate members, especially CARICOM's firm commitment to defending the Virgin Islands' right to self-determination and upholding the principles of self-governance. Their solidarity with us is very much appreciated, and it is helpful to know that our neighbors stand with us. The final point I want to mention on the CARICOM meeting is that I was very pleased to witness the preliminary accession of Martinique as an associate member of CARICOM. When their full accession is complete, it will deepen the island's cooperation and engagement with the rest of the Caribbean. Separate from the wider congratulations that were made, the political leaders of all the associate members present congratulated the President of the Regional Council of Martinique, Mr. Serge Lechmy, on this achievement for the government and the people of Martinique. The CARICOM family continues to grow and support that. In closing, I once again want to say it was a pleasure for me to represent the Premier and the territory at his request. We are in a very good place with CARICOM, in large part due to the Premier's efforts and the consistent engagement of our CARICOM Ambassador Special Envoy, Mr. Benito Wheatley, who attended alongside me. With that, I will end my remarks, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Premier, Honourable Julian Fraser, and also thank you so much to our Premier, Honourable Natalio Wheatley. We've come to the part where we will ask the media to ask their questions. I realize it's a very, very full house. This mic here on my left to the front is the mic that we would like you to move. Be mindful also of the cameras. We will ask each media house to ask 3 questions. Please be mindful to utilize your questions carefully. It is a very full house, and we do have 2 ministers. So I will invite the first one. Anyone? Oh, before we go there, I'm so sorry. Go ahead, you can stay. I wanted to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Connie George. Thank you so much, Dr. George. She just got in last night. I appreciate you. She is the director of the Virgin Islands Public Service Learning Institute. Welcome, Dr. George. I hope you get some sleep this weekend.
A pleasant morning to all. Premier Wheatley, Ron Granick, Toyful Media. I'm going to direct the questions to you.
Yes.
Allow me to begin. Premier, during your Asia mission trip, you highlighted efforts to strengthen the relations with the Greater China market and, of course, explore entry into new Southeast Asian markets. Given the evolving global financial landscape and increasing competition from other jurisdictions, I'd like to know specifically strategies or agreements that were established during your meetings to solidify the BVI's position as a preferred offshore financial center. Additionally, Premier, how do you plan to implement feedback gathered from the corporate service providers regarding challenges within the industry?
Thank you for that question, Brother Ron Grant. And just to say, I'm also supported here by Executive Director of International Business, who could supplement my answer if necessary. But the key strategy of the Asia mission as it pertains to the expansion of the financial services industry had to do with the trip to Malaysia. We see Malaysia as a gateway into Southeast Asia. Traditionally, Singapore played that purpose, and we had strong business with Singapore. But certain factors have created the opportunity to increase or strengthen our relationship with Malaysia. Malaysia has an offshore center by the name of Labuan. And we had a meeting with the Labuan regulator and also their agency that promotes their financial services business. We recognize great similarities, even though, of course, our registry is much larger. But we recognize opportunities for collaboration with their regulator. And the key takeaway that we had from the meeting with the regulator was the possibility or the intent to be able to sign a memorandum of understanding with their regulator. And of course, we were able to meet with their practitioners on the ground. And I believe that their practitioners understood after we gave them a good presentation, which included the Financial Services Commission representative in Asia, Mr. Shane Baptiste, who did an excellent job, made a presentation. I believe the practitioners understood the way that BVI companies could complement Labuan companies in their legal structuring to be able to facilitate raising capital and to facilitate investment in and out of Southeast Asia. So I would say that was the key takeaway as it pertains to financial services. In the Greater China area, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Greater China, the business remains strong. And of course, it's always important for us to go and to be able to ensure that our partners know that we are committed. We're going through a period of many changes right now, in particular changes to the BO Act, the Financial Services Commission Act, the transition from Boss to Virgin, some of the things that we're doing from a mutual evaluation side, some of the changes being made there, annual returns, other things that we are requiring for persons to do. And it's important that we are there to guide the industry through a very kind of tumultuous period. So that would be my key takeaways. I'm not sure if Ayana, you want to add anything to that? Okay.
I would love me to follow, Premier, in regards to your statements just now and your specification about Shenzhen. You mentioned that approximately 2,000 businesses from Shenzhen are currently registered within the BVI, with a collective value nearing some $10 billion. Were there any discussions on how the BVI can further capitalize on this very strong economic relationship? And moreover, can we expect new business ventures, trade partnerships, or rather investment opportunities to emerge as a direct result of this trip?
Yeah, I would say yes. The trip to Shenzhen was excellent. First of all, I was, pleasantly surprised at how well respected the Virgin Islands is, and Shenzhen is probably maybe the third largest city in China. Would that be correct? About the third largest city, and one of the more newer cities, I would say, and they've been doing extremely well in Shenzhen. And when you go there, you can't help but notice how wonderful the place looks. You can actually really see the prosperity in places like Shenzhen. And we signed the MOU with Shenzhen, and it's important for us to be able to follow up and ensure we get the full benefit of that MOU. And I'll also mention that we went to a place called Chennai, and that was something that I think maybe about 10-15 years ago didn't necessarily exist. It's a special economic zone within Shenzhen, and we've discussed possibilities. You spoke about the possibility for investment and trade. That was a direct conversation we had with our partners with Chennai, particularly as it pertains to technology. And one thing that we did when we were in Chennai was we invited officials from Shenzhen and Chennai to the Virgin Islands, so that they can see opportunities here for investment, particularly in technology, and even in their particular free trade zone. We're interested in doing free trade zone here in the Virgin Islands, and we discussed possibility of that. We also had a visit to a wastewater facility. And we see opportunities for them to help us with infrastructural development. And those are all things that we're looking to follow up on.
Thank you, Premier. Moving on to my second question. I'd like to actually recognize Dr. George, who accompanied you on the Asia mission. You also discussed the BVI's Asia Abroad program,
Yes.
which currently supports students studying in Malaysia. And you mentioned a number of plans to expand opportunities for students in the Asia Pacific region. I'd like you to elaborate, please, on the new partnership and scholarships that may become available for Virgin Islanders, and how do you envision this expansion benefiting the BVI's workforce long term?
Oh, excellent question. Firstly, let me recognize the director of the representative office in Hong Kong and his entire team, Dr. Ricardo Wheatley. The Asia Abroad program was really a brainchild of his. As we know, we have students who attend universities in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and that has been very helpful to us to provide the knowledge and skills necessary to be able to contribute to our home, our society. But we have other opportunities. We have universities in the China area. I believe we have someone in Taiwan as well. And these universities are offering full scholarships to Virgin Islanders. I believe right now we might have maybe in this region of 6 or 7 students, somewhere around there. But we want to expand that to 15, about 15 students. So we want students to be able to consider the possibility of studying at these universities. It sounds very far away, but when you're a student, it presents an opportunity for you to be able to see and experience the world. And Asia is a region of growing importance. It's beautiful, and there are quality universities there. We've discussed the possibilities of internships. Our students being able to get internships in the Greater China area, and also their students want to be able to come and do internships in the Virgin Islands. We had those direct discussions with the University of Macau. So I would say that the benefits to students are tremendous, particularly being able to get a free quality education, to be able to see a different part of the world and experience a different part of the world, and have that cultural exchange, which no doubt would benefit our people here in the Virgin Islands. It will make them more globally minded, but it also gives them a quality education to contribute to their homeland.
Premier, I have to quickly move on to your statements about the United States Virgin Islands. As you would know, the U.S. Virgin Islands legislators' legal counsel recently issued an opinion stating that Governor Albert Bryan Jr. does not have the authority to impose tariffs on the BVI or any foreign jurisdiction, as of course those powers are reserved for the U.S. Congress as well as President. In light of this legal opinion, Premier, do you believe that the threat of a 25% tariff on the BVI imports is now off the table? Additionally, how does your administration plan to engage with the U.S. Virgin Islands to essentially de-escalate and ensure continued economic cooperation?
Excellent question again. The threat doesn't seem to be off the table. I read the article that was published in the United States Virgin Islands, and it seems as though, given the legal opinion, they're exploring their options. You know, my humble admonition to the United States Virgin Islands would be, you know, we don't need to continue going down that particular road. You know, we're open to dialogue, and we've conducted consultations with the USVI officials in good faith. You know, I mentioned that I had a meeting, it would have had to have been last year, I believe, with Governor Bryan. And we made it very clear what our intentions were. We shared many amendments to the legislation with Governor Bryan. He also had a representative of the charter industry in the U.S. Virgin Islands in that meeting. We made it very clear that fees had to increase. You know, these are natural resources. This is like our gold or our oil. And I think the USVI officials have to understand that you have to pay a little more than $200 $200 for an annual license when you're literally making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And by their own admission, they contribute to the United States Virgin Islands economy just shy of $100 million. You know, to be honest with you, I find it somewhat insulting that their voters would not see that they should contribute a little more to the Virgin Islands to be able to access our natural resources and to be able to make a good livelihood for themselves. The Virgin Islands, the BVI, deserves to get something more out of the deal, I would say. So in terms of how we plan to engage, I've extended an invitation to Governor Bryan, also an invitation to the members of the legislature to come to speak to me so we can have further dialogue about, and of course we are willing to, where necessary, make concessions, but it has to be fair. You know, things have to be fair. And to pay fees from 1992, which are 30 years old, is unacceptable. The fees will increase, but we'll increase it at a level, you know, that will be fair, in my opinion.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you
so much, Mr. Ron Grant. We now invite our next media house. With their consent. It's a little tight, so we apologize.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How do I hold this? Is this good? We got too many mics to juggle around. Cindy Roseanne, Guavaberry Media. Ta-da. All right. I have a few questions.
Okay.
What important part did Honourable Malin Penn play on the Asia mission? Why was it important for him to be there, and was the offer to travel to Asia extended to the entire opposition?
Thank you. The invitation to travel to Asia was extended to Honorable Ronnie Skelton, leader of the opposition. He wasn't able to attend. He suggested Honorable Lorna Smith. And Honorable Malin Penn as well is a former Minister of Trade. He's worked at the Commission for many years. And I thought it was important that we had good representation from the opposition on the mission, considering the type of headwinds that we have blowing in the financial services industry right now. I would also say Honorable Penn, within the opposition, has been one of the leading members speaking about financial services issues over many years, calling for more dialogue with members of the House of Assembly, with the members of the opposition and also members of the public, so that they can understand the benefits of the industry. He made a very solid contribution on the trip, particularly in direct discussions that we had with government officials in Malaysia, with the regulator, with the industry practitioners. So I was pleased with his contribution to the trip.
Okay, I'm kind of tempted to ask the contribution, but I just have a follow-up. What is the Honorable Lorna Smith's negotiated role in your government right now?
Negotiated role? I don't understand.
In your government, like, what is she? Is there a negotiation? Was there a negotiation? Is she working closely with your administration?
Well, let me say to this as well. I've already stated that I think that we have to approach financial services from a bipartisan approach. That's been the tradition in the Virgin Islands. As it pertains to financial services, yes, I would like to see her play more active role in financial services. She has a very long experience in the particular issue. As you know, she was recently minister, and of course she did a very good job. And I thought that she made a very solid contribution while she was minister. And if there's any way for her to play more of a role in financial services, I'm certainly open to that.
So there is no There is nothing between your government and the minister right now. Well, the member of the House right now. Nothing, no special
Well, as
role,
you see,
nothing like that.
As you can see, I took her to Asia, and I'm going to be working much more closely with her as it pertains to financial services moving forward.
Okay. What is the timeline in terms of the legislation with the voters, the marine legislation? What is the timeline on the passage and implementation on that? And when Governor Bryan is here, and I've been asked to make this clear, if a possible cease and desist can be put on the table for him for consideration in terms of their usage of Virgin Islands.
When you say usage of Virgin Islands, what you mean?
Well, over here is the Virgin Islands, and while I'm here, I would love to say that I think it doesn't work for us when we have the Premier saying the British Virgin Islands. You have documents from the Governor's office saying British Virgin Islands, and our legal name is the Virgin Islands. So in reference to that, yes.
I completely agree with you. When we use the term British Virgin Islands, it's only because it's a very confusing issue.
I agree.
You have one jurisdiction who's using another jurisdiction's name, and it gets very confusing. So we only use the British Virgin Islands to make the distinction and for clarity, because it can get very confusing, especially when it's not just persons in the BVI and the USVI who are listening, but you have persons around the world listening, and they'd be very confused who we're talking about. So we just say it for the distinction. But I certainly assert that our legal name is the Virgin Islands, and I think the legal name for the U.S. Virgin Islands is the U.S. Virgin Islands, right. United States Virgin Islands, formerly the Danish West Indies. So I do agree with that. But remind me of the question again.
So are we going to do anything legal to start taking back that name? And when do you expect the legislation, the updated legislation?
Maybe you could ask Donald Trump to change their name. But I don't know. I don't know anything else we can do besides
Well,
that.
I mean, the governor did say he's going to report it to Donald Trump, so.
Yeah, so, but what was the other question? What was the other question you asked? Sorry. I slipped my mind. Sorry.
The timeline for the passage of the updated legislation.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's before the House right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm literally just waiting to have a conversation. Hopefully, we can have the conversation soon, because we're ready to debate the bill and to get it passed. Because of course we have an industry where the season typically starts November 1st. And that's usually when we have to issue new licenses, even though we're making changes to that regime. But typically the persons would have licenses that would expire October 31st. So we want to be able to give the industry good time to be able to adjust to the changes that we're making, extensive changes that we're making in the legislation.
All right, and just a follow-up, will the media be invited to these high-level negotiations just for transparency purposes?
Generally, when we have an IVIC, the media does play a specific type of role. There may be an aspect of the meetings which are closed, and then there'll be aspects of the meeting where I think typically after IVIC we would have like a little media conference or so.
All right. So my last question, last year when it came to the public's attention that you had put roughly $250,000 of the people's money into the cartel show, you said no additional funds would be given to the event. Was that from the Premier's office or from the people's coffers, period?
This is from the Premier's office or the Ministry of Tourism or any other department, Ministry of Government.
Okay. So could you confirm if YOLO Promotions was given an additional $50,000 through the BVI Tourist Board?
I'm not aware that I'm being given anything else.
Okay.
I'd have to double check on that.
And let us know.
But typically the Tourist Board does, provide sponsorship on their own for events.
Yeah, but that's still government's money.
Yeah.
And under your ministry.
Well, typically the Tourist Board sponsors events. Persons write to the Tourist Board. They request money. So I would have to check with the Tourist Board to see if they've given YOLO any additional money.
The PS is here. Would he know?
Would he know if money has been given?
Yes. And additional money is from the Tourist Board.
That's doubtful that he would know that. But You can always speak up if you like, but I think it's doubtful.
You don't know or know it wasn't given?
I have no additional information at this time other than that.
Okay, so we'll wait to learn if that information is correct or not.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mulberry Media.
Good day, Beverly Lewis, ZBVI Radio. Premier Wheatley, as it relates to the USVI and BVI, as you just spoke extensively about it, the USVI governor did say that he would go to Trump to impose the tariffs on BVI, and he's moving forward with decisive action. When he comes here for that IVEC meeting, are you going to stick to your guns in terms of moving forward with increasing the fees?
Well, as I said before, I don't think the right approach is for anybody to seek to bully the BVI. You know, the BVI, we have our own natural resources here, and we have to depend on our natural resources to be able to survive. Any action taken to hurt the BVI hurts the USVI. Any action that the BVI takes to hurt the USVI hurts the BVI. We literally one people. Albert Bryan's people come from Carrot Bay. You know, most of the persons in his legislature have BVI roots. I would be very surprised if we allow it to escalate to a point where we're using kind of Trump-like tactics to be able to get our way. That's not the Virgin Islands way. And I think if we continue to pursue that pathway, all it's going to do is hurt the wider Virgin Islands. So again, I would call on Governor Bryan to use dialogue, use diplomacy, rather than using, resorting to Trump-like tactics of tariffs. You know, that doesn't serve us well at all. But we're not going to be bullied. I'll say that to you. Those type of tactics will have no impact on my decisions whatsoever. The decisions that we make will be based on good faith discussions, consultation, shared objectives. That's what's going to provide the opportunity for any changes.
In terms of food security, and the Deputy Premier can answer this as well. Premier, some time ago you spoke about a basket of goods. When last did you have discussions with the supermarkets as regards to that? Because we've seen the last press conference probably about 2 months ago. You did speak about it.
Yeah.
And then we see now how eggs have gone up really considerably high. And in terms of which supermarkets you spoke to, also going further now in terms of food security with CARICOM. We see a lot of products that come from CARICOM. There's flour, rice, sugar, and I can go down the list, but most of them, we don't have it here. In terms of a greater collaboration with CARICOM to get those goods here. And Honourable Fraser, maybe you could give us a sense as to the discussions to go a little deep further in terms of the food security discussions with CARICOM. But Premier, probably you first.
Well, thank you. The kind of pathway towards a basket of goods in my mind will be greatly assisted by my trip to the Dominican Republic. Of course, we have a team here from the Ministry of Financial Services, Economic Development and Digital Transformation, and they can speak specifically about all the discussions they've had with the industry as it pertains to a basket of goods. But to supplement those efforts, I want to have direct discussions with the Dominican Republic. And my special envoy, Mr. Benito Wheatley, it was just reported yesterday, I'm not sure if you saw the reports, of the discussions we've been having directly with Dominican Republic officials. And they're actually taking steps right now. We don't have a specific date right now, but taking steps right now to be able to facilitate a trade mission to the Dominican Republic. And on that trade mission, I intend to reach out directly to suppliers who can assist us with providing the products and the goods that could lead to us regulating a basket of goods here. And one of the challenges of regulating a basket of goods with the supermarkets right now is because if their suppliers raise prices, maybe due to some of the same tariffs going back and forth between the United States of America and other countries, there's really nothing our supermarkets can do. They have to raise their prices as well once the prices from the suppliers goes up. That's why we're trying to find a source of goods so that we can stabilize prices, and we're even willing to have additional duty concessions on that basket coming directly from the Dominican Republic, working with our shippers and our supermarkets.
So am I to understand that the discussion has not gone forward yet with the local supermarkets?
No, we have to, we've spoken to the local supermarkets about the trade mission to the Dominican Republic, and some of them have pledged actually that they want to come on the trade mission. But the next step for us is to actually go to the Dominican Republic to be able to advance the process.
In terms of us getting more CARICOM goods, Honourable Fraser, the food security discussions?
Yeah, thank you. As you would know, transportation is one of our greatest issues. And getting goods from the CARICOM countries, as they have been doing in the past, was coming on those wooden schooners. One of the discussions that they have been having, they even had a consultant there, was on transportation. We're looking into fast ferries that can carry containers of goods at a rapid speed, moving goods between islands, not just people, containers, vehicles, people, between islands. And I would imagine that if their produce becomes attractive enough to us, our market becomes attractive enough for their produce, we will be a part of that. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but down the road, it's a high possibility that will take place.
My next question, Premier Wheatley, horse racing.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the efforts to really get horse racing back at Ellis Thomas Downs, and probably even for August, the Emancipation Festival, can you talk to us about those efforts and negotiations? Where is that?
Well, just to say, of course, that we're at the impasse. We haven't been able to get past the impasses yet as it pertains to the track. I made robust efforts to have discussions on something mutually beneficial. That hasn't been successful as yet, but we continue to try. We also have other persons who have suggested to us that we look at other areas potentially for a horse track. We've explored some of those areas. Nothing has come forward as being viable at this particular moment. But we continue to try.
I would love to get a response from the 3rd District Representative, Mr. Fraser, on that issue. You have been talking a lot about it in the House of Assembly, well, not within recent times. Your stance, please, sir, on that.
It is true that horse racing is a part of the vernacular of the Virgin Islands. We even went as far as to designate a holiday for horse racing in Seacoast Bay. And I don't think there's anyone who would want to see it happen more than I would. But as the Premier said, that it's complicated. It's an area that government didn't focus on as part of its a subject, so to speak. We got the track, we developed the track, we built the grandstand, and we literally turn it over to the private sector, so to speak. And the interest and the focus wasn't there. I remember when I was Minister for Communications and Works, I was given the opportunity to develop, handle the infrastructure. I particularly stated that I wanted no part of the administration because only the Minister of Finance has the reach to deal with a matter like that. And I got out of hand. I'm looking now and I'm seeing that the general populace is advocating for the track. They're yearning for this track. It's something that I didn't feel was happening at the time when it was happening. So I too believe that Premier, we will have to make this other concerted effort and another push to see what we can do. I think the populace has the appetite now to understand if you need it that bad, it's going to cost you. And if it's going to cost you and we're going to pay, you cannot come back to us and complain because it's not going to be cheap. But we have to do something, I guess.
Just as a follow-up, Mr. Fraser, now that you are in the government, are you leaning towards leading your voice and skills towards the negotiations and getting it resolved?
I don't think I have been withdrawn from it.
No, we haven't heard. We haven't heard it.
You haven't heard?
No.
You don't conduct negotiations in the public.
So you guys know that you have some very interesting questions, but for the essence of time,
That's it.
other
That's it.
media houses.
That's it.
Thank you so much. So we're going to invite quickly. I see Deacon has his hands up, so if you can
My
come to the
constituent put
mic
me on the spot.
for a seamless transition.
Good morning, Premier, Deputy Premier, Carrier. Sean Connolly, business editor of the Beacon here. You said you feel insulted and bullied by the USVI. Isn't it more that you've been outplayed by them? They hold all the cards, don't they?
Do they?
Well, let me just clarify. I feel insulted by the concept that the BVI is not worth more than $200 a year to be able to access our pristine waters, which persons from around the world come to enjoy. That's what I find insulting. So the fees have to be increased to something that's more reasonable. We've been paying 1992 fees for the last 30 years. So persons have been getting a huge discount for many, many years. It's time to increase the fees. So that's what I feel insulted by. As it pertains to being bullied, a tactic of putting tariffs on the BVI is a bullying tactic. And that's not something that we're going to respond to. We'll respond to dialogue, negotiations, good faith discussions. Okay, as it pertains to being outplayed, perhaps maybe that's your opinion. As it pertains to who holds the cards, most of the chartering industry takes place in the BVI waters. So you'll be able to figure out who holds the cards. Yeah.
Okay, so follow up to that. Sorry.
Can I just add something to this? People are talking about coming to the Virgin Islands for purposes of pleasure. They think about going to Soggy Dollar and sailing up and down Drake's Channel. But there's something called a knot drop. They promote fishing for the Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands. But where does that fishing take place? The people come off the plane, they go to Red Hook, they get on a charter boat, and they head straight for the knot drop. They go nowhere else. That's ours. And this has been going on for as long as any one of us can remember. When I was Minister for Natural Resources and Labor in 2001, 2002, we've been through this already. And this is not the last step. It's not the last step. It's not the first, definitely not the first. I hope the Premier with his negotiating skills can make it the last. But I promise you, I don't think it's going to be the last.
Okay, thank you. As a follow-up to that first question, you've used quite emotive language this morning. The way the governor has gone about this, do you think he's stabbed the BVI in the back?
Well, I would prefer to say I was surprised at the tactic of tariffs. I think it'd be much better for us to have dialogue than to threaten with the use of tariffs.
Okay, as a second question, the West End ferry terminal, you budgeted 15.5 million for it. The two bids that came in were 63 million and 93 million. How did you get it so wrong?
Certainly something went wrong. So we're going to have to examine and see exactly what went wrong with that particular project. But I have confidence that the Minister of Communications and Works is going to identify the challenges and get it fixed, because we are committed to getting the West End Ferry Terminal done.
Okay, to follow up to that, you say something went wrong. Do you take responsibility for that then, personally, as Finance Minister? And this isn't the first time that, estimates have been wildly out of range. I'm thinking about the massive overspend in the public sector pay increases last year, and other items. What do you say to critics who'd say that, as a finance minister, you don't seem very good with money?
Well, persons can come to whatever conclusions they can come to at the appropriate time. But when there are mistakes anywhere in the public service, whether I made a mistake or somebody else make it, ultimately I take responsibility for correcting it and for getting it right.
Okay, finally, in your interview with the Beacon last month, you said you wanted the governor out of cabinet. Have you discussed that with him, and has that caused any tension between you?
Well, I didn't detect any tension last time I spoke with him, okay? But I've been very open with everybody about the fact that I believe we need to progress as it pertains to our own journey of self-determination and self-governance. An important aspect of that is the governor coming out of cabinet. So I've made it no secret. I've said that also to the Minister for the Overseas Territories, Stephen Doughty. So it's not a secret.
Sorry. What was Minister Doughty's response, and have you discussed it face to face with the governor?
We've discussed that at the Joint Ministerial Council, in particular about whether other territories can have a Bermuda-like constitution. And the United Kingdom government said, or Stephen Doughty said, that a Bermuda-style constitution is not off the table.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say this regarding the governor in cabinet? That is not a conversation between the governor and the premier.
Right.
That's a constitutional matter.
Yes.
In 2007, when we were negotiating the constitution, he was gone. It was the opposition who didn't find favor with him going. That's why he stayed. But he was gone. So he's on borrowed time. We have a constitution negotiation coming up now. And I'm sure it's going to be on the table again. And we would remind them that he was gone.
How much borrowed time do you mean? How much can you lend him?
I'm going to ask you to make your way back, so thank you so much.
Okay.
It's been great. Want to have anything else more to say about that?
No, I just the borrowed time is the 4 years. No, how many years passed since 2007 until now? Almost 18 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's a long time.
So he was gone already.
Thank you, sir.
Good day, Shanda, BVI News. For the Premier, concerns by water taxis and fast ferries have been raised now that there are increased flights to the territory, stating that it may affect their profits or their livelihood. Has your government responded to this as yet?
Yeah, I saw the document that was circulating, speaking about the concerns of the water taxis. I do think there were some valid concerns in the document, but certainly I think everybody should understand and know that the government has decided that we want to develop our airport. When we develop our airport, we anticipate that more traffic would be coming through Beef Island rather than going to the United States Virgin Islands. And I see, based on this issue that we're having with the US Virgin Islands, most persons can see that it's actually a national security concern as well. We don't want to have to rely on anybody else's airport to support our tourism industry or to support traffic in and out of the Virgin Islands. So it is a high priority for us to support our the development of our airport. That will certainly have an impact on traffic between the U.S. Virgin Islands and the BVI. I mean, I think it'll always be an option that's there for us, but I don't think it's anything that persons should rely on moving into the future. So I think persons have to think about how they adjust their business models to accommodate new realities.
Has the government considered speaking with the people in the association as yet?
Yeah, definitely. We'll meet with them.
All right. What are your concerns about a breakdown in the long-standing relationship between the BVI and the USVI?
Well, I'm a young guy. I'm next to the Liberator, senior member of the House of Assembly. So he'd be able to say much more than I could, that every now and again we have a little issue pop up between the USVI and BVI. That's natural in any relationship. No relationship is without its challenges or without its disagreements sometimes. So I think the important thing is that we all remain committed to dialogue and committed to our friendship. We are literally family. I have probably about 8 aunts. Half of them live in the BVI and half of them live in the USVI. Quite literally, half of my family is in the United States, Virgin Islands. That's how it is for most persons who are quote-unquote ancestral Virgin Islanders. Most ancestral Virgin Islanders have quite a lot of family in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we can't afford to allow things to break down because we're literally family.
So just to be clear, are there any concerns with the government regarding the relationship? Do you think that there's a possibility that it might affect the relationship with the USVI?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, is there a scheduled date for the U.S. governor to come to the BVI as yet?
We haven't been able to confirm a date.
And my question to the Deputy Premier. You were recently part of No Confidence. What has changed your decision to join the government? No confidence held against the Premier with the opposition. What has changed your decision to join?
The reason I was an integral part of the no confidence vote is because I was in the opposition. The government need help. Now
Yes.
I'm with them.
Yes, that's not what I mean.
Absolutely no need for the no confidence vote.
That's not what I mean. I mean, what changed your decision from coming to the opposition to the government?
I told you, the government needed help.
All right, no problem. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Shonda. I think we have our last video. Very happy Friday today, so let's see where Miss Kathy is going.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. The real cat.
No.
Inside joke from last you don't know.
Honourable Fraser, I'm so happy to see you here. I did query about you appearing at the press conference since your move from the opposition. I didn't say my name is Kathy Richards of JTV. Sorry about that. Oh wow! Yes, so I'm happy to see you here, Honourable Fraser. I have my very first question to you, and it's kind of follow up to what BVI News would have asked you. What are the benefits, if you see any, of your move from the opposition into the government? One, for you as the district representative for District 3, and two, for the people of District 3.
Benefits for the people of District 3. Well, I think, when's the last time you've been in District 3? District 3 is moving. There are things happening all the time. And there's more to come. I joined the government in October 23rd, 22nd of 2024. And, of course, the budget was already, you had already have your budget address made. So we won't factor that in as we should have in the budget, but there's still things happening. And I think the people of District 3, as time permits, can expect to see more happening. Beverly, yeah, could see more happening.
She moved.
Oh my goodness. No wonder you were so tough on me. So, yes, you know that all the time that I've been there, especially when I've been associated with the government, we've been able to have things happening there in that district. And the Premier knows that, as a matter of fact, he's the one who brought some initiatives to me in my district. So he knows that we have to get things done in the district. And I'm not just going to be there with the government on a district level. If you notice my portfolio is a small one. And it's small for a reason. I have other things to do. I want to make sure that the government, that his agenda gets carried out. And that's why I'm sitting here next to him, to make sure that his agenda gets carried out. And that goes across the entire government, speaking with ministries, different ministries. And if that doesn't happen, then my being here would not be the purpose that I came for.
Yeah. Maybe I could add something as well, because it's certain things you can't say about yourself. Right? It's better if somebody else says it. Deputy Premier has been my main advisor, and I would say that this government and the people of the Virgin Islands are the main beneficiaries of him being a part of the government, because quite literally he's been mentoring me and guiding me, which I'm hugely grateful for. He is a man of great experience and great knowledge, and I think every day I learn something new from him, which I'm just incredibly grateful for. So we will be more successful as a government because he is with the government, and the Virgin Islands will be more successful because of his role in this government. And I've been hugely impressed. I mean, when he went to CARICOM, we were extremely well represented, and I think I just see that continuing. But I just want to express my gratitude in front of all the people of the Virgin Islands to him for coming and assisting us. And I'm really looking forward to going through the constitutional negotiations with his support.
Okay, I was not going to ask this, but seeing that you would have interjected with that response, could you say for us, or make that comparison if you may? You now have Honourable Fraser, who you describe as well experienced and well versed in what he does, compared to that to the previous person you had as your Deputy Premier, which is Honourable Lorna G. Smith, who you earlier said that you will have to be relying on her expertise a whole lot more to assist you with matters of financial services. So where has that balance gone?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that, actually, Kathy, because you give me the opportunity to say a lot of nice things about Honourable Lorna Smith. You know, I think Honourable Lorna Smith, she needs to be honored much more than she has been honored in the course of history. Because when you look at her as a diplomat, for instance, Honourable Smith opened up our Hong Kong office somewhere around 2014. She opened up the BVI London office. I believe she was a part of the beginning of BVI Finance, probably the International Arbitration Center. I mean, Honourable Smith has done so much for the Virgin Islands. She deserves all of our admiration and respect. You know, she's excellent at what she does. She's extremely competent. She's very experienced, and she has a heart for the Virgin Islands. And she too has my great admiration and respect.
Okay, I'll move off of that for now because I have more. No. This is my third question that I'm allowed. On another note, Premier, what we continue to see in the international media is that continued narrative of the BVI being a tax haven for companies and persons who want to launder money or escape taxes. And the Virgin Islands is getting an ugly name for this. Recent report there in one of the BBC outlets, would not bite my tongue to call his name, but it's Abra something Vich. I don't know if you saw that. Those two reports out, and both of them are pointing to where he was able to evade certain taxes because his property was rented through other companies that are operating here in the Virgin Islands, and they are not light on continuing to refer to the BVI as a tax haven.
Well, let me just say I reject that designation of the Virgin Islands as a tax haven. We are not a tax haven, and we are not a haven for money launderers or anything like that. The reality is we have between 350 and 400,000 companies, and we are adhering to all international standards. You see us going through the House of Assembly now, strengthening our AML, anti-money laundering, counter the terrorist of financing and proliferation financing regime. We have tax agreements. We sign on to the common reporting standards for the OECD. We adhere to the regulations for the International Monetary Fund, the European Union. We adhere to quite a number of international standards and regulations, and we're proud of our efforts, and that's why we've developed such a good reputation as an international finance center. It has been because of our innovative products, the primary one being the BVI Business Company, which has done so well all over the world. But it's also because of our great reputation, having such a strong regulator, having a strong legal system, which is based on the English common law, having this commercial court that we have here, having the Privy Council as a final court of appeal. Many of the persons who are saying what they're saying about the BVI, it's mainly out of ignorance. BVI is a responsible partner in the fight against illicit finance. We share information, some of it in less than 24 hours, with our law enforcement partners around the world, including in the United Kingdom. And you will also hear, like in the debate the other day, the Treasury official that was there, the Treasury minister that was there, was able to defend the BVI, the fact that the BVI adheres to international standards and regulations. So I just say most of the persons who refer to the BVI as such need to be educated about what the BVI has been doing as a reputable international center.
So if I'm to ask a follow-up on that, how do we fix that? How do we engage in educating moment to those articles?
Well, we have to ensure that we get our message out there about what it is we're doing. And we are engaging PR firm to assist us in getting the message out there, to let persons know exactly what we're doing. We also engage directly with the UK Parliament. We have persons in Parliament who are friends of the BVI, so to speak, and we'll ask them to help us, to assist us in educating their colleagues about the role that the BVI plays in international finance. And when we go to the United Kingdom, we do things like we hold receptions with parliamentarians. We speak directly with them. We've had great friendship from the Speaker of the UK Parliament, Lindsay Hoyle. So we're going to continue engaging parliamentarians, and we're going to continue to educate persons about what we do, because certainly there are definite misconceptions out there that's promoted by some of these what you call them, news publications. So let's call them that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that it for JTV? Well, I want to say thanks to the media, and I'm going to apologize again for a little late start, and acknowledge the presence of all of our senior public officers who lend so much to these press conferences and all of their support. Today is Friday. We have a long extended weekend. I encourage you all to please take some time out and go at the HLS Community College for the Heroes Live concerts. There's an experience that is free at 6 p.m. I believe that t-shirts can be purchased at the Premier's office for a nominal fee of $25. Monday is a holiday. I would like you to go with have a wonderful day. Once again, my name is Carrie Christopher, your Acting Director of Communications for the Virgin Islands. Enjoy and enjoy your week.